Jeff Prueter, this is Jill Blasy, and we are your child's English 9 teacher. And we are really, really excited this evening to talk to you a little bit about why we love teaching English 9. For me personally, this is my 11th year teaching. It's my 9th at South Lyon High School. For all 11 years that I've taught English 9, and I absolutely love it. I think working with freshmen is a fantastic opportunity. I love the literature that we have. I love the opportunities that we have through writing. And it's a wonderful chance for us, to take students who are passionate already about English and help them reach some of their goals. It's a great chance to take students who are a little bit hesitant with English, have a bit of a clean slate coming into high school, and help them kind of reevaluate a little bit what English can look like for them. So we're excited to talk a little bit about our big picture goals. Before we get there, though, I want to take a moment to introduce Jill Blasy. She and I are co-teaching this year in kind of our second round of being able to co-teach together. So we're looking forward to that. And I'll let her take a few moments to introduce herself and kind of talk about some things that she's really looking forward to as far as the year.
Hi, my name is Jill Blasy, and I am in my 18th year here at South Lyon High School. I have been co-teaching English 9 for several years, but as Mr. Prueter said, this is our second year. We've had a little break with each other, but looking forward to being back. Your kids will thoroughly enjoy learning from him and his love with literature and writing. So I am really looking forward to establishing the relationships with the kids. We've kind of already started doing that with being able to meet with them one-on-one, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But just being able to establish those relationships and seeing them grow as reading and writers is what I'm looking forward to as they build that confidence in some areas that they may not feel strong in at this time.
What Ms. Blasey was talking about with the conferencing and chatting with students one-on-one is really kind of what we want to talk about in just a moment. So let's talk first about kind of our big picture goals, which admittedly seem a little bit vague, but we're going to try and break down what that actually looks like. Our big four goals are to help your student become a better reader, a better writer, a better critical thinker, all of which is kind of leading towards them being engaged and informed in this world. So yes, we do need to prep students for English 10 and then English 11 and 12 and whatever it may be. But this is a really, really interesting time in which these students are living, and they're absolutely paying attention to the world around them. We need to help them navigate all of that. And so by helping them become better readers, better writers, and better thinkers, that's going to help in that process. As far as becoming better readers, one of the major things that we're going to try and do in here is to read a lot. We cover some core texts in here. We cover classics like Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird. If we have some time, we're going to get to House on Mango Street too. We're going to kind of see how the year goes with whether or not we're back in person, how timing goes. And we're introducing another new text this year, Just Mercy, which I'm really excited about. But the other big focus for us is, yes, Ms. Blasey and I have these core texts that we're working through with students, but we also have classroom libraries with over 300 books that we really want your students to engage with. And so if you have someone who is a big reader, fantastic. We're going to be able to really cultivate those reading skills and really help push them and challenge them and introduce them to some literature that maybe they haven't seen before. And if you're sitting here right now thinking, my student is not a reader, that's not going to go well, it is. We have a lot of literature in that library that has all come out in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Award-winning, young adult, really, really interesting literature. And part of the reason that we love teaching this class is because Miss Blasey and I love talking books. Like, we love giving book recommendations. In fact, Miss Blasey, if you'll talk about that for a second, because you did such a great job kind of chatting with the students, like that idea of sharing literature is something that we both really like and appreciate.
Yeah, and we've, like you said, we both have that library, and we've both been reading young adult books that we feel that we can recommend to the kids. And then we've also did we did some speed dating with the kids. And what has been nice in these small groups has been hearing the kids that say, I'm not a good reader, I don't enjoy reading, but already hearing them say, I have like a list of 5 books that I'm interested in reading. So that's been already positive, and hearing from them and their interest in finding books that they will enjoy.
And in fact, that can be your quote unquote homework this weekend, is to ask your students What were some of the books that you saw in the classroom library, digitally, of course, that caught your interest, and why? And the great thing is, they still have access to that digital classroom library. So if they kind of try and evade that question, feel free to hop on with them, ask them to show you what's in that classroom library. You can click around and check out some titles as well, which would be a really great opportunity. Ms. Blasy's been talking about how we've chatted with just about every student already about their reading interests, their reading levels, as well as their reading struggles a little bit. So why are we putting so much emphasis on reading? We'll come back to the other things in a moment. Why are we putting so much emphasis on reading? I think this chart's really important to pay attention to. The impact of reading 20 minutes per day. And that doesn't necessarily mean when Miss Blasy's reading and we're listening passively. That's actively reading and being the ones engaging in that text. Check out what 20 minutes a day can do. That's 1.8 million words every single year. And students who do that consistently, on average, end up around the 90th percentile. 5 minutes a day, we see a huge drop off. And of course, 1 minute per day, an even bigger one. And so how is it that we get students to read if they are not big readers, especially if that 20 minutes a day feels really daunting? Well, one, it's building up some reading stamina, right? We need to go ahead and do kind of a slow build to that. For some students, 20 minutes sounds fantastic. They're ready to kick their feet up, grab some tea and curl up with a good book. Many students can't do that right away, so we need to start small. We might need to start with that 5 minutes. But if we can get them reading 10 minutes a day on their own, and then 12, and then 15, and then 20, the amount of words they're getting exposed to is absolutely fantastic. And not only is that going to make them better readers, it's also going to make them better writers. Good writers read a lot. Good readers write a lot. And as I talk about a lot in my AP writing course, writers are thieves. Like, they steal from one another. It's because they read often. We need to do the same thing. Those are really connected. So we'll let that kind of roll into becoming better writers. In the same way that Miss Blasey and I have already started talking with your students about some one-on-one conversations about their reading habits, we'll be doing that with writing as well. One of the great things about block scheduling is we're going to have a chance to do a lot of conferencing about what they're reading, how it's going. Same with their writing. This isn't going to be something where they're finishing an essay and then they're getting a bunch of feedback. They're going to get a lot of feedback on their writings throughout a process. And that's not only the big writings, that might be small writings as well. And so we're really excited about taking advantage of block scheduling to chat with your students, to really kind of engage with them about their reading and their writing, which of course leads to their thinking. Our goal is not to get them to think any particular way, but to kind of learn how to think critically, how to go ahead and dive beneath that surface a little bit. We talked this week all about thinking about reading like thinking about an iceberg, that when you read the story, the plot, the characters, all of that is on the surface. But beneath that surface is truly the core of the text. We need to be willing to look at what can we notice on that surface that helps us say, hey, based on these patterns that I'm seeing, what might really be going on here at a deeper level? And all of that, of course, helps us think about becoming more engaged, informed citizens. And that's truly what we want to do. So if you've made it to this point in the video, what that most likely means is that you want to know how to best help your student. Now, if there are big picture things such as, my student has 6 classes, what are maybe some good ways to help him or her organize? We would love to discuss that with you. But for the sake of this video and the sake of time, let's focus just a little bit on English 9. How can you help your student stay organized? And what role can you play helping them become better readers and better writers, especially if your student is someone who's a little bit hesitant about either of those? One, I want to start in that top left corner. If you are someone who reads, share what you're reading. And if you're someone who's not a big reader, talk about why that's a struggle. I think that a little bit of honesty and vulnerability is actually really important with this. And remember, there are some really good writers out there on all sorts of topics. So just because you are not covering ginormous texts on your own because you're busy, doesn't mean that you're not a reader. Share what it is that you are reading. Discuss those things. That kind of leads me into that next one of discuss. Be ready to talk with your student about what he or she is reading. And you don't have to have read those same books, but asking what do you think? What questions do you have? What's making sense in that book? Asking them to engage a little bit in that process, you're going to know right away how well they're engaging with it. And if they're not engaging well, talk about why and what those next steps are, which very much might be chatting with me and Miss Blasy about finding a different book. Or if it's a core book like of Mice and Men that they don't have choice in, that's something we want to be active about as well. I think that's going to be incredibly important. Hopping down a little bit to that respond, that plays a little bit into the writing. And so Miss Blasey will kind of follow this up with the listen in a second. But that idea of responding, ask your student about what they're reading, and if they are willing to share some things, try and summarize kind of what they went for. I always think that's a really good task, because at the end of the day, if you read their work and you say, here's kind of what it was about, they're going to know right away whether their intent came across or not. They're going to say, yeah, that's what I wanted my reader to get. Or they're going to be like, no, Mom, no, Dad, you missed this. That's for them to then go figure out, right? They've become more active in that. So being a part of that process is really just being present and asking some really good questions. So with that in mind, that being present and asking some questions, Ms. Blaze is going to talk a little bit about kind of our listen and our read sections.
Yeah, so on the listen, just make sure that you ask to hear your students writing. One thing that kids have written that when they feel that they're not a good writer is that they don't know how to go back and do those revisions. And we know as writers that when we read something aloud, we hear our mistakes. And that's something that our students need to learn, is to read that aloud to someone and to hear their own mistakes. Or it can be just a learning opportunity where you can teach to them what you may have heard that was incorrect, and to help them on how to go back and make the revisions on their writing. So it's an opportunity to, have a teachable moment when they're reading aloud. It also gives them that opportunity to hear their own mistakes. But then also with reading, like Mr. Prueter said, you may not have read the books that we have in our content and literature for this school year, but ask them about what they're reading. And the biggest thing that they can do is that will help them with the summarizing of what our discussions may have been that day, or what they read on their own, or what we read together as a class. So you're just helping your student with these crucial first steps with understanding what we are reading. It's, putting it into their head again of what we have discussed to put it in there for long term. But then, it's not a time for them to analyze what we've talked about in class as well as they talk to you. So you're working on some critical skills such as analyzing and summary, which is something that we'll be working on throughout the school year too.
So folks, that's kind of our overview here of English 9. Now, plenty of other information needs to come out to you about kind of the nitty gritty, and all of that will. But we want to take this time just so you can kind of hear from us why we enjoy English 9 and some of those big picture goals. So we really appreciate you being with us this evening. And as you can see, both of our emails are on there. And so please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions, comments, concerns, not only in regards to this video, but also as your student starts kind of navigating this course a little bit more. The first 2 weeks have been a little bit of a whirlwind, but things are really settling in. And in truth, our 6th hour, we're both incredibly happy with right now. The level of engagement has been fantastic. Students have been bold enough to be participating. We've been annotating together on the screen. And of course, they've been having some time for some independent work as well. And I think that's a really important skill that they continue to work on. Ms. Blasey, any kind of closing thoughts or anything you want to tack on before we let people get back to their evening?
Yeah, I just want to kind of add a little bit about additionally what my role is in the classroom as well. So there are students in this class with the co-taught that have an IEP or a 504 plan. So Mr. Prueter and I work with all students, but there will be specific students that I will be working with to make sure that their accommodations are being met, and just helping and supporting them when they may need that additional support, or having to meet right now in a different chat to ask those questions or to get clarification that they might not be willing to do in that large in the meet large group. So I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit more about what my role in the classroom is for the students.
So we are incredibly excited to be working together again. As Ms. Blasey said, we worked together for a year and had a blast, and then we kind of got split up. So we're excited to be back together, and we are excited to be back together in English 9. It's a course we both love. It's got literature that we're really passionate about. and we're really excited to be working with your students this year. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a bit of an information overload, but take some time, sift through it, and probably most importantly, ask your student how English 9 has felt so far. What's working, what's not. Start those discussions early, and if you do that, I think we have a chance to have a really, really special year. Thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to communicating with you soon. Good night.
All right.